I'll now go on to our next speaker, Dr. Anaga Harur, who might come across at a glance as a pretty young girl, but beneath it is a steely armor of a very dynamic ophthalmologist, a cataract refractive surgeon, and a great administrator of our Anil Eye Hospital for the last 23 years. And as her career sought height, she gained her dues and became recipient of many awards and medals to her credit, became a member ARC of the West Zone after a tough election, with a greater blossoming future ahead for her. Her flair in classical dance and an eloquence in poetry sets her apart as an individual of great skills. And let's hear from her about cataract surgery in keratoconus. Dr. Anaga?
Thank you so much, ma'am, and very good evening to all of you. Am I audible and is my screen visible?
Yeah.
I would be speaking on cataract surgery in keratoconus, no financial interest. Cataract surgery in keratoconus has unique challenges and needs special considerations. Many times these patients come to us for cataract surgery and keratoconus could be just an incidental diagnosis. But we need to be sure that we need to confirm the stability of keratoconus before we go ahead with cataract surgery. So let's see what are the challenges, how we can optimize outcomes, and let's see some case-based discussions. Now, the capricious cone has unique challenges which makes biometry inaccurate and often difficult. The back to front ratio of the cornea gets disrupted because of the ectasia, and the refractive index of 1.3375 no longer holds valid, and that's why it causes errors. There are no dedicated IOL formulae available, and there could be some indecisiveness regarding which lens to use. There could be surgical challenges. All of these can cause unpredictable refractive outcomes, and hence we need to have a tailor-made customized approach for each case. Now, if you consider the unique challenges in keratometry, we know that these eyes have a steep corneal curvature. There could always be asymmetry in the corneal curvature. As you can see here, the K in the visual axis is very different from the K at the apex. The fallacy of the auto K is that it would measure only the anterior surface and only in the central 3 millimeters. Keratoconic eyes usually have an irregular tear film, which leads to poor repeatability of the K readings. And if you see the EKR histogram on Pentacam, you can see that there is a very wide range of K values in a small area, giving rise to a poor visual prognosis. Now, Hashemi et al. Evaluated the repeatability of keratometric measurements in keratoconus using 5 different devices, and they found that in the mild to moderate groups, there was good repeatability among all the devices. But when the K was severe, more than 55 diopters, all 5 devices had low repeatability, with Pentacam faring the best. Now, which brings us to the question as to which K should be used. Now, this was a retrospective study which evaluated the refractive outcomes of cataract in keratoconus in Moorfields Eye Hospital, London, and they found that in the mild to moderate case, K values from IOL master were used, but when the Ks were severe, more than 55 diopters, when they used a standard K value of 43.25 diopters, the biometric prediction error was much less compared to when they used the optical biometry derived Ks. Again, there could be errors in the axial length measurement. All these eyes usually have a longer axial length. And as you can see here, the anterior segment length may not be so affected, but the anterior chamber depth is definitely higher and deeper. There is a decentered corneal apex. There could be a displaced visual axis and fixation difficulties, all of which make the ELP estimation very challenging. There is greater variability, lesser accuracy, and poor repeatability of measurements. Also remember that corneal asphericity in keratoconus is unique in that it has a negative spherical aberration. It is a hyperprolate cornea, which is somewhat similar to a post-hyperopic LASIK patient, and hence we need to consider a zero aspheric or a positive spherical lens in these patients. Now, coming to IOL power calculation, this was a study that was published in the JCRS, and it evaluated multiple IOL formulae in keratoconus. What it found that all the formulae led to a hyperopic refractive outcome, and in this study, SRKT was found to be the most accurate. Again, the results were worse in advanced stages of the disease. If you see this chart, these were the various IOL formulae that were evaluated, and it found that the SRKT was the best in stage 1 and stage 2. However, all the formulae fared poorly in the stage 3 disease. If you also see the mean predicted error, it was positive in all the formulae because of the hyperopic outcome. And greater the stage of the disease, greater was the error. This was another study that was published in the American Journal of Ophthalmology as recent as April 2020. And this found that among all the IOL formula that were evaluated, the Barrett fared the best in stage 1 and stage 2. And again, the number of eyes or the percentage of eyes within the predicted range of plus minus 0.5 diopters and plus minus 0.75 diopters was the maximum with Barrett. So it showed that Barrett gave the maximum accuracy. Also, it showed that the optical biometers overestimated K compared to Pentacam, which meant that if we use the Pentacam K, that could help us avoid hyperopic outcomes. What we can also do is choose a higher power and hence target myopia, and also use 3 different formulae for IOL power calculations. How else can we optimize measurements? Remember, we need to remove the contact lens at least 3 to 4 weeks before the measurements, especially the RGP, the torics, and the Rose K lenses. Ensure stable tear film. Optical biometry is preferred over an ultrasound one, especially an IOL Master 700 with a total K, which would also measure the posterior corneal astigmatism. Use multiple readings, use multiple technologies, and among them, choose the lowest K values. Again, the Pentacam K and EKR histogram can come in handy. Regarding which IOL to use, in patients with keratoconus and cataract, if there is a history of good corrected distance visual acuity, and if the manifest axis matches that with the topographic axis, one can go ahead with a toric IOL. If it doesn't match, then maybe a monofocal IOL would be better. If there is a history of low corrected distance visual acuity, then using intracorneal ring segments and then followed up with monofocal IOL would be better. And in case of advanced ectasia, a PKP with cataract surgery would be better. There are various studies that have evaluated the results of toric IOL in cataract surgery with keratoconus and have found good results. Now, for example, in this patient, if you see the AKR histogram, there is a tall peak, as you can see here, and the difference between the astigmatism at 1 millimeter and the 4.5 millimeter zone is less than 2 diopters, hence a toric IOL would fare better in this case. Now, in the second case here, you can see there is no peak, but there is a very broad flat histogram, and the difference between the astigmatism at 1 millimeter and 4.5 is very high, almost 4 to 5 diopters, and toric may not do as well in this case. Now, again, regarding the decision of which IOL to use in this case is, a toric IOL could be used if there is a stable, regular, symmetrical topography in the central 3 millimeters, if there is not much skewing of the axis, if the manifest and topographic astigmatism axis match, and as we saw earlier, if there's a less than 2 diopter difference from the 1 to 4 millimeters on Pentacam EKR, if the patient is not going to use a contact lens or is intolerant to an RGP, a toric IOL would be better, and the patient should accept astigmatic correction in glasses and should have a good level of spectacle corrected visual acuity. Now, this was an observational study which used toric trifocal diffractive lenses in patients of keratoconus. They did around 10 eyes, but I'm sure these patients would have had a poor quality of vision due to higher order aberrations. So if we consider intraoperative surgical considerations, the incision should be at thicker areas, avoiding the thinned out areas. There is bound to be some amount of distortion due to the cone or scars if they are present. Hence, use of trypan blue would help to enhance visualization. People have used RGP contact lens assisted cataract surgery. Remember, these are thinner and maybe floppier corneas, and hence the risk of wound leak is higher. So we may use multi-step incisions and sutures for better protection. Use good fluidics to minimize IOPs, and in very advanced cases, a triple procedure of DALC with phaco may be better. Now, we had our own series of toric IOLs in established advanced non-progressive keratoconus, and we found the results were quite gratifying. For example, this was a patient who came to us for cataract with an undiagnosed keratoconus. I would like to bring your attention to the fact that the axis in all the technologies that we used matched. Now, for example, this was the pre-op autoref reading, the manifest refraction, the IOL master axis, and the topographic axis all matched. This was the Visante of the patient, and this was the IOL master reading with a minus 6.45 diopter cylinder at 180 degrees. We used a simple toric lens for this patient, and the patient's vision was 6x6 unaided post-op. And as you can see here, the higher order aberrations in the post-op total aberrometry report was quite encouraging, and the patient was very happy. This was another patient who came to us again for cataract, undiagnosed keratoconus. And as you can see here, the patient's vision in the left eye was very poor since childhood, obviously because of a more severe ectasia in the left eye. The right eye was the better eye, but it had more than 12 diopter astigmatism, and the axis on the topography matched That with the IOL master, which was more than 12 diopters, we did a smart toric calculation. In this case, we saw, as you can see here, the cylinder power at the IOL plane was almost 18 diopters, and the patient did very well with a 6/9 plano at the end of surgery. This was the left eye, which was more challenging. As you can see here, that the EKR histogram showed a very flat and a broad curve. There was no tall peak. The visual prognosis was very poor, but the patient insisted on the toric lens as he was quite happy with the right eye. Now here again, the axis on the and the astigmatism on topography matched that with the pentacam, but the case was so high, it was not even recordable on the AutoK and IOL master. It was so high that it was out of bounds for the Barrett toric calculator, out of bounds for the Barrett Universal 2 and the Hill-RBF formula. The IOL master compared 2-3 formulae and again went ahead with a smart toric calculation, and this was a lens which was almost minus 20 diopters with a 17 diopter lens. We had to make it special patient, and as you can see in this video clip, there was quite a lot of distortions. This is a Playtactic customized toric lens that is used, and you need to wash off the viscoelastic from behind the lens as in other torics. The patient did well, but there was a rotation of around 15 degrees post-op, so we went back and re-rotated the lens, brought it back to its 180 degree alignment, and post-operatively the vision improved quite a bit. Now you can see that the vision in the right eye was 6/9 unaided, and the left eye, which was the worst eye, improved from 4 counting to almost 6/36. So what we achieved was a debulking high astigmatism. This was another patient with bilateral keratoconus, and she was operated for a PKP for severe corneal hydrops. And post PKP, there was a very high astigmatism, both by regular astigmatism. Again, the axis of the topography matched that with the IOL master. And we went ahead with the surgery. Now we had a double challenge of not only correcting the astigmatism, but also maintaining the endothelial integrity of the PKP graft. This was again a very high cylinder of almost 17 diopters. And we used a customized toric lens. The post was 6/9 unaided with a clear graft, and the patient was extremely happy. A lot of studies have found a good keratometric stability with toric IOLs in keratoconus. But remember, we need to counsel these patients regarding possible outcomes, a guarded prognosis, especially due to a poor quality of vision due to high hyarid aberrations, especially comas, possible need to use RGP contact lenses post-op, and a residual refractive error which might need correction. So to conclude, we need to determine the grade of the KCN, confirm the step, use multiple technologies, multiple readings, multiple IOL formulae, have a wise IOL selection, target low myopia, and a good patient counseling is what would bail you out in these situations. Thank you so much for your kind attention.
Thank you.